On June 6, 2015, the Chinese Historical Society of America, in conjunction with Stanford's Chinese Railroad Worker Research Project, held a first-ever conference on campus to discuss the role those workers had in building the Transcontinental Railroad. This year marks the 150th anniversary of the first Chinese laborers being hired to complete one of the greatest engineering feats in United States history. A sold-out crowd, which included more than 50 descendants of railroad workers, attended. Among them was Russell Lowe of La Jolla, California.
Well, it's my great-grandfather, whose name was Hung Lai Woh, who worked on the Transcontinental Railroad. And the story that my great-uncle told, great-uncle is his son, was that his father and his brother came over to work on the Transcontinental Railroad. They worked on the railroad, and the detail that's quite compelling is that the uncle lost an eye while they were building the snow sheds in a blasting accident. We know this because the son of the railroad worker, Kim, lived to be 100 years of age. And at his 100th birthday party, my sister Laurel went up to him with her video camera in hand and said, "Uncle Kim, please tell us about your father. You never talk about him." So he did. He spontaneously, without any preparation, sat down and started giving a speech about the Central Pacific Railroad. And at the end he says, "My father came over, my uncle came over, and unfortunately my uncle lost an eye in a blasting accident building the snow sheds." So that was kind of the first we were aware of this part of our family history. My dad is the grandson of the railroad worker, and my dad learned from his grandmother that when Hung Lai Woh was building the railroad, he found himself on the middle of that long trestle we've all seen the photograph. And he turns around and he sees the locomotive bearing down on him, and because he's in the middle, he can't run fast enough to get to their end. So his solution was to jump over the side and hang on to the railroad ties so the train rumbles by. So it's a great story. And the other part of the story that's really quite important was that he found a wife, which was hard to do. After 1882, there were almost no women. The ratio of Chinese men to women about that time was 27 men to 1 woman. So most of these Chinese workers died as bachelors, or perhaps they went home. But in his case, he went to the Cameron House and he was grilled. He was interviewed long before he met anybody. And they wanted to know about his personality, his honesty, his integrity, and his religion. And eventually they gave him permission to meet one of the young girls, Tom Ying. And they were married in 1888 and had 5 children. One of their children was my grandmother. There are now 100 descendants of Hung Lai Woh and Tom Ying, 100 of them. And we would not be here except for their courage and their ability to overcome all that hardship. And I think, quite frankly, it made us who we are. It made us stronger. And I think that if you kind of follow the generations, you see this courage and this so-called right stuff that keeps popping up. I saw it in my dad. My dad was a World War II hero. He would never put it in those words. He would be embarrassed if I said that, but he was a World War II hero in every sense of the word. He was on Saipan. He was part of the invasion of Saipan, where 30,000 men died. And it gets passed on further, and I see it in my cousin, Courtney, who is a female F-15 fighter pilot. Only very few in the whole world, and she's one of them. She has that right stuff. And my son, Ryan, who we were actually out at San Simeon, and it was a very rough day on the beach there. The surf was huge. And all of a sudden we see a woman, and she's frantically waving, and we couldn't figure out what was going on. And it turned out that her husband and her son were being swept off into the ocean by these rip currents. They were about a quarter mile off, and she didn't know what to do. And we're looking around for our son. We couldn't find him. He was 10 years old, and finally we spotted him. He's swimming out to these people, and he saved them. He rescued these people.
Well, there seems to be a movement right now to get the railroad workers some long overdue recognition. When you see this taking place, what's your reaction?
My reaction is it's good, it's positive. I don't know how they would react, interestingly, because I think for them probably it was really a job. They were trying to make money and survive and send money home. But I think it's good not only for the Chinese, but it's good for America. It's good that we all recognize what the minorities in this country contributed, because it was really so much. They built this country. But I think, as the point I made, is that the real legacy of these people are in us. It's the genes they left behind, and it's what we're all accomplishing now, these many years later.